Yeah, no problem. There's no one there, actually. I'm just pretending. Hi, it's Kevin from Hampshire School of Photography, and today is an important day, or these past few days have been an important day because Adobe have just launched some massive updates to Lightroom and also some updates to Photoshop, but it's the Lightroom updates that have been the talk of the town. So we're going to dip our toes in the water and just have a quick look to see what's now possible with the new updated Lightroom Classic. The new tools in Lightroom, here we are in October 2021, are astonishing in many ways. They're taking Lightroom into places it's never been before. And this tutorial is a brief introduction to those tools. I'm not going to go into it in depth. I may do that at a later stage. But this is just to kind of get you playing with it and experimenting with a smidgen of confidence. A smidgen of confidence. This photograph on the screen was taken a few years ago. Probably about, not really sure actually, 8 years ago, maybe something 9 years ago. And I was working for a holiday company, and they sent me to spend 9 days on the South Turkish coast and also on one of the Greek islands, Samos, photographing their holidaymakers at their resorts enjoy themselves. So I had a ball of a time and got a tan at the same time. So it was good, very good. This young man was on this sailboard. I think that's what they're called. And I'm on a rib, which is another inflatable boat nearby, and I'm photographing him using an old Canon 1D Mark IV, I think it was, with a 70-200 lens, and using exposure compensation, I've overbrightened the picture so that he's not too much of a silhouette. So I've purposely overexposed the image to try and see some detail on him. Thankfully, I've not overexposed it so much that I've blown out all the background. It's still visible and we can still recover it. And I can still brighten him up a little bit further without there being too much of noise being created in the process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this new tool up here, and it gives me this drop down menu. And here I can select the subject or the sky. I've got 3 tools available to me: the brush tool, the linear gradient tool, and the radial gradient tool. These 3 used to be on the previous versions of Lightroom, and they sat just up here. And then I've got some tools for enabling me to fine tune my selections, color range and luminance. I'm going to select the subject, I'm going to select the guy, so I'm going to click on here and let Lightroom's very clever tools, artificial intelligence, or whatever it's called, its algorithms, I don't know, I don't understand, but I'm just going to click that button and watch what happens. Now down here you've got this thing detecting subject, and it's found him, and they put a sort of red overlay, or Lightroom has put a red overlay over the child, boy, teenager, where it thinks the subject is. Hasn't got it completely right. There's a little bit of overlay on the handle there, the sailboard, and a little bit of the overlay running down the post. But for this shot, I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, as soon as I start adjusting the controls, the overlay disappears. So I'm just going to brighten him up a little bit, maybe push up the shadows a fraction, and that's given us some nice detail on him. Now, that's all good for him, but the background still looks very bleached out. It looks very pale. So I'm going to select the subject for a second time. Here we go. And there he is selected. And now I'm going to invert that so that the selection is everything apart from him. And the way we do that is you can't click on the mask itself, you have to click on the kind of sub mask that lies underneath it, and you've got 3 dots. If you click on those, you get the option to invert, and now you can see by the red mask that everything apart from him has been selected. Now if I were to darken that sky down, let's go down quite a bit, maybe to there, add a bit of blue, That's good. And I think we'll just push up the highlights because I don't want the little highlights that I can see on the water dumbed down too much by me having pushed down the exposure down. So I'm just going to push the highlights up to give it a bit of sparkle back. I wonder if the whites will do a better job. Ish. Between the two, I think that's not too bad. Now, I can see now, because I can actually see the sea. I see the seas at an angle. So I'm just going to grab, while I'm here, the crop tool and rotate it to straighten out the sea's horizon. Let's look at before and after. What a massive change, and how quick and easy was that. That's fabulous. Here's a picture of my old Olympus OM1 film camera, which I used during the 60s and 70s. And let's click on the selection tool and select subject. It's calculating. And it's done a reasonable job, but it kind of, not that good. What I'm seeing here, we've got some of the keyboard selected. Don't quite know how that happened. And there's a little bit missing from the camera there. So we need to add back the overlay or the matte, the mask there, and take it away there. So we can add by clicking on the add button, and I'm going to paint in the additional amount with the brush. I'm just going to paint it in there. How easy is that? And I'm going to take away, also using the brush, make my brush a bit bigger, and I can just paint away unwanted mask like that. I'm going to make my brush much smaller. Let's zoom in. That's better. And I've got a little bit of overlay there. There's some red up there, so we're going to subtract using the brush, and I'm just going to paint those away like this. Now I have gone over, I'll just make a point here, I've gone over there onto the camera by mistake. So while I'm using this brush, if I hold down the Alt key, I can paint those back. Good enough, and that little bit there. There we are. And you can see that the camera's been selected and nothing else is. So we'll make some adjustments now. So let's push up the shadows. See some detail in there. We'll add a bit of texture. Let's crank up the old texture. Like a bit of texture, yeah. Bit of clarity. It looks almost kind of cartoonish once you start doing this. What about a bit of dehaze, shall we? A little bit maybe, just a touch. Ooh, it's too much. Down to maybe there. We'll push up the old sharpness to give that a bit of a kick. And maybe, what about highlights? Just brighten up a fraction. Okay, so let's look at before and after. Before, after. That's cool. Finally, I think we'll do a landscape, and well, this time, rather than selecting a subject, we'll select a sky. So again, we would have clicked on this little button up here, and this time we are going to select a sky. And there it goes. It's found the sky. It's done a very good job at selecting the sky over there, but it has not picked it up here in the windows of the greenhouse. This picture was taken at RHS Wisley. That's the Royal Horticultural Society location in Surrey. I think they're in Surrey. And we just, looking at this picture, see, this is irritating me. I actually want those bits selected, so we're going to add. We're going to add to the selection. I'm going to click on the add button, and this time I'm going to select by color range. So now I've got a little color picker, and if I click in there, it's saying that blue we want to pick. Now it's found elements of that blue in elsewhere, both in the building work and also in the reflection here. So we need to fine tune it. So I'm going to turn this right the way down, take it away from areas I don't want it, probably somewhere like that. I've still got it in some areas up here, so I'm going to subtract from that using the brush. And I'm also going to take it out of here because I don't want it applied there. So there we go, pretty much. And I'm sure I've spent more time, I could be more thorough and more accurate. I have pretty much now just got the sky selected. I'm just going to declick that so we don't see the overlay for this. I'm going to darken the sky down a bit because I kind of feel it's, you know, it's a bit insipid. And dehaze is normally good for bringing out cloud detail, so a little bit of that. Probably a bit too blue for my liking, doesn't look very realistic, so I'm going to drop the saturation a bit to there. Might do a tiny bit more dehaze. That's rather cool, like that. Okay. Now I'm going to create another mask, and again I'm going to select the sky. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to invert it. Remember, you can't invert the top layer of the mask, it's got to be the layer underneath, and I'm going to invert it. And now what I end up with is the foreground being selected. I don't want this area up here selected, so let's get rid of that, and we use the color range. Click on there. That's good. Oh yeah, did a good job ish. Did it? No, it didn't. What's happened here? What's happened? Yeah, that's better. That's better. Just tweaking that slider a little bit is all it needed. And now the foreground is selected, and the sky, including the sky up here, is no longer selected. Just hiding the overlay, and now let's brighten up the foreground. So we'll just push the exposure up. You have to be careful, don't go too crazy on this. Push up the shadows. That's too far. Let's increase the saturation a bit, make those greens really pop, and we'll probably add an element of texture, because there's a lot of texture in this bit, so, you know, grass and brickwork down here. So let's push up the texture. Can't see or notice any difference. Let's just do that again. Little bit of clarity, not too much. Oh no, that's too much. Take it down a bit. And let's look at before and after on that one. Before, after. So I hope you can see that these controls, whilst they may look a little bit daunting, with a little playing around, you've got a tremendous amount of flexibility. And not only flexibility, but speed. The time it's taken me to do this was really significantly quicker than the old Lightroom. And some of this I probably wouldn't have done in Lightroom at all. I would have had to send this to Photoshop to do. So all in all, good result. Every now and again, I get surprised by the changes that Adobe make to either to Lightroom or to Photoshop. Most of the time I don't, be honest. But this one I did. This is a good change, and it gives a lot of creative possibilities. It increases the creative possibilities. It opens up new opportunities, and it speeds things up. It's much quicker and easier to work with. It looks more complicated because it's unfamiliar, and those who've never worked in Photoshop and used to working in layers might look at it and go, ooh. But no, believe me, once you've practiced a couple of times, it will come. It's a piece of cake. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. We've got plenty more on the phototeacher.blog website. So we try and launch a video tutorial every single week. If you prefer real life learning experiences in a classroom with me teaching and with other students there, then we have a training centre in Fleet, which is in North Hampshire, and there we run workshops on Photoshop and Lightroom, but also a number of workshops for photographers, from basic introductory skills right the way through to 1-year courses, and there's some really cool stuff there. Check it out. So check that out on who says W? No one says www. Okay, check it out on gohsp.com. Gohsp.com. And HSP is obviously Hampshire School of Photography. That's good. So thanks for watching this week. See you at another one. Bye.